Iran and its Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps have really been on a roll, and that's the subject of this hearing today. And I want to thank our witnesses for being with us. Let me start by just giving my observations on recent events. So over the last few weeks, the IRGC has tested a new long-range ballistic missile, and that test is in violation of the UN sanctions. They also released a video of dozens more of these ICBMs staged in an underground bunker. The IRGC's Quds Force has stepped up efforts in support of the murderous Assad regime in Syria, and we've seen those attacks on the ground. And by all accounts, it appears that the IRGC has prevented international investigators from assessing the information needed to conclusively finish a report on the possible military dimensions of Iran's nuclear program. It's on IRGC territory. So, from nuclear proliferation to support of international terrorism to human rights abuses, the IRGC has made Iran the global menace that Iran is today. The IRGC is responsible for squashing democracy movements at home, for spreading the Iranian regime's revolutionary ideology abroad, and for sparking turmoil throughout the Middle East. Its forces operate, again, independent of Iran's regular army. It answers directly only to one man, Iran's supreme leader. While most understand the role of the IRGC in fueling conflict throughout the region, its hidden grasp on the Iranian economy is just as important. People don't realize that most of the major businesses were nationalized, basically, and turned over to the IRGC to control. So they have about 30% of the Iranian economy. So the IRGC has been labeled Iran's most powerful economic actor by the U.S. Treasury Department, which has noted its deep reach into critical sectors of Iran's economic infrastructure. The IRGC's biggest, largest entity is this construction arm, which controls 800 affiliated companies, that it also controls billions of assets, is often, I think, lost on the public here. The fact that much of the money that's held in escrow, that when released is going to flow through the IRGC, I think that point has been lost on us. These activities, in turn, fund Iran's ballistic missile program, its military activities, its regional aggression. And of course, none of this appears to disqualify Iran from receiving sanctions relief under a nuclear deal that allows Iran to keep a path to a weapon. Within months, Iran could have access to tens of billions in new cash as this money comes out of escrow. And this, what I'd call a stimulus package, this stimulus package for the Supreme Leader will only strengthen the IRGC. And as trade restrictions with Iran loosens, that in turn, of course, will increase its access to dual-use technology for its military and its missile programs. An IRGC with more cash means more threats to the United States and our allies. Even when Iran sanctions were fully in place, Iran's support to the Assad regime in Syria totaled every year $6 billion. I'm going to guess now that that's going to go up. IRGC support on the ground, combined with Russian air support, worsened the already horrible conflict in Syria, drawing in foreign fighters and giving ISIS room to grow. And more resources for the IRGC also promises to create problems in Iraq and in Yemen, where the Guards are backing Shia militias responsible for violence against Iraq's Sunni minority and against the Houthi rebels fighting Saudi forces in Yemen. This, combined with Iran's continued support for terrorist groups such as Hezbollah and Hamas, and I'll just remind people that the other story that surfaced a few months ago was that the IRGC will now try to transfer, and I think this is in direct violation of the agreement, try to transfer guidance systems, GPS guidance systems, to the 90,000 rockets and missiles that are already in Hezbollah's inventory, and has also offered to resupply the inventory that Hamas spent in the Gaza war, and rebuild the tunnels to boot. So the major source of instability in that region is the IRGC. And in selling its flawed nuclear deal to Congress, I believe, Secretary Kerry testified, that there would be no let-up on Iran's terror and destructive regional behavior. That was my takeaway as I listened to his words, but I want to now understand how that's going to be followed with action. We have yet to see any effective strategy from the administration to push back against IRGC's regional advances, which have emboldened Iran, which have undermined our allies. And this morning we will hear from our witnesses on what such a strategy might look like and how Congress can help. And I will now turn to the ranking member for any open comments he may have.